our session. This is the virtual version of this session, so there are a couple of continuing education requirements. You will need to be signed into the platform with the email that you registered for the conference with. You'll also need to fill out, there are going to be 3 polling questions throughout the session, and then you'll need to submit the continuing education survey at the end. Other than that, enjoy the presentation. All right, Dina, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Dina Hayworth, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Hirons. We're an advertising, PR, and digital agency headquartered in Indianapolis, Indiana, with an office in Chicago as well. So you are going to hear a lot about our Hirons story today. So I'll let Grace go ahead and introduce herself.
Sure. Thanks, Dina. I'm Grace Dawson. I'm the membership associate here at the NCEO. I am here to provide support, whether online or offline, during the presentation, not during the presentation, and happy to answer any questions anyone has. I'm also going to be providing some resources in conjunction with all the Hirons materials so that you can take this information and apply it to different situations that may come up with different kind of types of companies and workplace situations. All right, go for it, Dina.
So a little bit about my story here at Hirons. So I have been with the agency for 22 years. So a little bit uncommon that I've been in the same firm my entire career, but have certainly done a lot of different jobs. And for those of you who are in consulting know, like, it is different every day when you're working with clients and various challenges. I currently serve as the Chief Operating Officer and oversee business development, as well as working on some of our key accounts. We're about a 50-person consulting based firm. And so we have a lot of different folks working in areas of specialization in advertising, public relations, and digital.
Perfect. And a little bit about my trajectory here at the NCEO. I came on board in 2022, early 2022. So I've been here for about a year and 3 months now. And I am really enjoying it so far. I do a lot of member support, a lot of the email campaigns that'll come from me, and a lot of the over the phone help on just updating membership, answering questions. That'll be me as well. So if you do have any questions, feel free to email them to membership@nceo.org. That could be during presentation, after presentation. And just a little bit about myself. I grew up on the East Coast. I now live in Minnesota. And I am the, let's see, am I the youngest? No, I'm not the youngest. I think I'm the second youngest here. All right, we have a quick little overview here. You may have seen this on the app, or if you are looking at the session, you'll see that as well. So Dina, if you want to go ahead with the overview, go for it.
Yeah, sure. So we know that you have lots of tools at your fingertips to talk about employee ownership, and NCEO gives you a lot of great support, as Grace mentioned. But we are going to talk about a specific case study. Adopted a lot of tools and tricks to ensure employee and partner engagement in our ESOP story.
Perfect. All right, so we have a couple of learning objectives here that I'll just go over quickly. The first one is just understanding how to include your employee owners in the planning of Employee Ownership Month activities, and that extends to year-round as well. Second one is just to discuss how to integrate these resources into your Employee Ownership Month plan and how to communicate those year-round, as well as kind of put them into practice year-round, as you'll see that Hirons has done. And the third final one is just to gain some insights into adopting the activities shared here and by the rest of the community.
So I'll start with sharing a little bit about Hirons and our long-term story, and then we're going to spend a lot of time talking about our ESOP journey as well. So as I mentioned, we're a consultancy. We work with a variety of clients, not only in out kind of the commercial space as you might think of it, but we work with nonprofits and other types of businesses. And then about 50% of our work is in the government space. So a lot of heavily regulated environments in government, and then also in healthcare and financial services. So as we think about storytelling, this is something that we do for our clients all the time. And one of the things that we work to get better at every day is telling our HIRIN story, and the ESOP portion of that is a really important piece, and one that we've been working to amplify over time.
Thanks, Dina. So just a little bit about the NCEO. You may know this already, but we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We've been here supporting the employee ownership community since 1981. The core of our mission, the core of everything we do, is to help employee ownership thrive. And this code, you can, if you are viewing this presentation, you can, with your phone camera, scan this little QR code, and this will take you to our membership resources page. That kind of lists out everything, well, not every single thing on our website, but it has kind of the main pillars of our membership resources. It also, I believe, leads to our welcome page. I know if some companies are newer and wanting to add folks onto their membership, I believe on that page is a spreadsheet that you can download to add contacts so that everyone that you'd like can have access to these resources. If you do have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out. You can go ahead and email membership@nceo.org. But for now, I will let us get on with the presentation. Okay.
Awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit about our ESOP journey, which started in 2010. I'll take you back a little bit further, as I know in talking to other ESOPs, our story is somewhat common. So our founder started our company in 1978 and had a really successful run as he decided to kind of look for options in his transition. I always say founders never truly retire, they just work slightly less. But as he looked for his transition, we identified the ESOP model as one that was a good fit for us. Again, we're a professional services company, have about 50 employees. And as Tom evaluated his options, we knew that, selling or merging with another business changes you no matter what commitments are made. There was no one within the firm or within Tom's family that was prepared to kind of step up and buy out the company. So the ESOP solution made a lot of sense to us. We started at a 30% sale of ownership shares, and that was distributed to all of our long-term team members to form the ESOP. We tried to practice our best internal communications models and announced the ESOP plan to our leadership team members at a lovely dinner at St. Elmo Steakhouse, which is iconic in Indianapolis, if any of you have ever visited, and then immediately rolled into an all-staff announcement that next day. So as we kind of moved forward, in 2013, we were having a lot of great success with the ESOP approach, and Tom had really good confidence in the model and sold the remaining 70% of his shares to the ESOP trust. That happened to coincide with our 35th anniversary. And so we celebrated with our employee owners, our agency clients and friends at a 35th anniversary party where we started to amplify this story and commitment to the ESOP. As we move through this presentation, you will see photos kind of peppered throughout. So we really believe in sharing our ESOP story and our firm's success pretty broadly. So we have active social media and client communication as well as employee communication. So I will encourage you early and often here to take photos and document your employee culture over time. So as I'm looking back at this photo that was 10 years ago now, we've got some faces of folks that are no longer with our agency. Some of them are now clients or have moved on to great successful careers. So it's also kind of fun to look back as well. So in 2018, we were able to successfully pay off our ESOP loan, and we were debt-free 2 years ahead of schedule. This coincided with our 40th anniversary party, so you'll get the idea of this these 5-year increments here pretty quickly. At that leadership or at that anniversary party, we celebrated a leadership transition. So Tom Hirons, who had long been our president and CEO, moved to a founder and board chair status with our organization. And Jim Parham, who was our longtime COO, became our CEO. And then I became the COO at that point. We celebrate brands for a living, so tried to practice what we preach a little bit, and also did some recognition and acknowledgments during this time that I'll share with you in a moment. And then as a nod to Tom's commitment to continuing education and lifelong learning, we set up a program with the IU Media School to establish and endow a scholarship in Tom's name. And then we also created the Tom Hirons internship program at our agency, where we would have an intern each summer from the media school who would serve in the internship that was named in his honor. So you'll see some things here from our party. So we had a lovely celebratory toast. We also had some media relations engagement. So we worked with the Indianapolis Business Journal, which is the business publication of record for Central Indiana, to celebrate our leadership change, but also look for some ways even there to start telling our ESOP story. So this has been a very important part of our culture of communication, even from the beginning. You'll also see in this next photo on the left, this is Emily Burkle Harrison from the IU Media School, who announced the scholarship that we had set up in Tom's name, as well as the internship. And this was a really special moment for us because Emily was actually my very first account coordinator at the agency back in the early 2000s, and started her career at Hirons, and then kind of came full circle to celebrate with us with this partnership with Indiana University. You'll also see that Tom was presented with the Sagamore of the Wabash, which is a very high level designation from our governor. In the background there, you'll see Indiana Secretary of State Connie Lawson. So she oversees all business services for the state of Indiana and was there to help us celebrate as well. Then as we move on here, we also, with Tom's move to founder and board chair status, established Founders Day, which we first celebrated in 2019. It both celebrates Tom and his legacy for the agency, but also looks back at everything that we have accomplished in the prior year. At our first Founders Day, we presented the second payment toward the Tom Hirons Scholarship with the large check that you see here to the Indiana University Media School. And we also tried in that celebration to engage our interns. So really giving our interns meaningful experiences to contribute to projects like this is a hallmark of our organization. We've got a great internship program and a lot of folks that have moved on to really successful careers. So that was important to us as well. As we celebrated Founders Day in that first year, we also did some employee activation. So we did a block cleanup that you see on the left here. They're also wearing commemorative t-shirts that we provided to all of our employee owners. And there you can see the big check presentation with the Tom Hirons intern on the left there. Emily, Tom Hirons, our founder, and then Jim Parham, who is our CEO. We kept at it with Founders Day. So we basically got to celebrate our first one in 2019, and then COVID hit, as you'll all remember, in March of 2020. But we decided that we didn't want to leave this tradition behind. So for a couple of years during COVID, we allowed our employee owners to either participate in self-care or do volunteer activities, spend time with their families for that half day where we would normally have celebrated together. So this is some of the photography from that they shared with us from those days. Tom chose to spend his time on the lake with his grandson. On the left, you'll see a really cute dog photo. Pam, who is shown there, is a very active participant in our Bring Your Dog to Work program. So we'll talk about that a little bit later as well.
I'm very excited to talk about the Bring Your Dog to Work program.
I can give you all the tips, don't you?
Excellent.
So as we look at our takeaways for you in this session, we really hope that you'll learn some things about traditional communications planning and employee communications best practices. And maybe you'll get some ideas and inspiration here. So we always start with research. As we tackle any communications challenge or client project, we want to make sure that we are starting with research. In this case, we traditionally have an employee owner survey that we conduct every year. We also, on every other year, have a client survey and then a vendor and partner survey. So these survey findings really became a baseline for us that we measure all of our activities and success on. So as we think about how to measure employee owner education and understanding of our ESOP, we looked for some baseline and benchmarks, and NCEO has a great model with their ownership culture survey. So that's really one of the things that we wanted to bring to the forefront here, that as you are engaging with your team, really understanding their level of knowledge about the ESOP, how they feel about it, and what value they assign to it will be really helpful. So I think Grace is going to give you an overview here of the offering.
Yes, indeed. So you can scan this to take a look at the page for the Ownership Culture Survey. And look at the page for the Ownership Culture Survey. Again, you can get to this page by scanning the QR code in the presentation. But this just gives a little bit of an overview on what the timing for the survey would be like, what the survey design would be like, how we'd help you getting it administered and everything like that, and what the report includes. You can also kind of fill in your name, and we'll get back to you with some more information if you have specific questions on that. And that'll go to our ownership culture team and our new director of education.
So Grace asked us if we would share our baseline survey results with you on the 5 key NCEO questions that we asked. So to give you a little bit of background on this, our current employee owners at the time were invited to provide some feedback on their experience at Hirent. There are many other questions that are asked in this employee survey, but these are the ones that are specific to the ESOP. We conducted this survey in June and July of 2022. We had an 80% response rate of our employee owners, which we thought was a really great success for our first time out. And one of the notes that I would make is we do not include our management team members in the survey. We collaborate in developing the survey with an outside consultant, and then she administers the survey in partnership with our HR outsource company. We work with a PEO. If any of you do the same, they're really helpful with us in sharing the survey and helping our employee owners feel like it is a very confidential and safe experience. We also find that it is helpful because our HR firm helps us with other benchmarked questions that are outside of the ESOP. So if you are not surveying your employee owners, I hope this is one of your takeaways, that you will start considering putting this in, even if it's something that you can do every other year. So our scale here, again, this is our benchmark. We had no idea really what to expect. We had a relatively strong commitment to communicating about the value of the ESOP to our employee owners and making sure that we were promoting it. So as you'll see on the left side of the screen, our agreement level with the fact that they feel like an owner of the company is our lowest score, right? Only 33% of our respondents were favorable in their response to that question. We then asked about an obligation to challenge poor performance by fellow employees. So about 50% felt that obligation. I will tell you, this is one of the questions that we had the most discussion and management team afterwards on, just if this is an appropriate question for our culture and how people might have reacted to that. And then also the third question here is that people recognize that the future value of their ESOP depends on the success of the company. So we had relatively good awareness of that one. About 67% of our respondents said that they generally understand how the ESOP works and what it means for Hirens. And then from a engagement and culture perspective, we also asked if the person that they report to, that they feel like their input is sought out routinely. So again, I don't know what the rest of you find in the survey results if you conduct them, but this was a really good benchmark for us. And obviously, we're trying to see improvements in some of those lower scores. So as we think about how to tell the ESOP story, there are a few things that I would encourage you to think about. So concentric circles is a practice that we use in all of our communications activities as we are consulting with clients on a variety of issues. So one of the things that we'll talk about today is how important the order of communication and engagement is. So as we think about any communication, and in this case, we're going to talk about communicating the value of the ESOP and telling your ESOP story to a variety of audiences, we would first start with a comprehensive list. So try to make an exhaustive list of all target audiences or stakeholders that your company or your firm should consider communicating with. And then you put those lists of audiences in a sequence that makes sense. The kind of general advice that I give is that you always want your target audiences to hear information from the group that is the most appropriate for them to hear from, and in the order in which people should be touched or notified about any news. This gives you an example of our concentric circles for our ESOP communications plan. So we always start information at our board of directors. Then we move to the management team. We have a group of kind of senior staff that we've established. So these are folks that have employee owners who are reporting to them. Then we go out to think about like an all staff message environment, whether that's an all staff meeting or an all staff email or Slack message or something along those lines. We use the term employee owners pretty broadly to really bake in this concept of the ESOP in all of our communication to our employee owners. We do recognize that they are not immediately part of the ESOP, so we have pre-owner communication that we use sometimes as well. Then we think about our retirees and our former employee owners. So those folks that have left us but are still in the ESOP. We then think about our clients, our vendors and our partners, our agency friends, family members, and other advocates. And then we think about media and the general public. So a lot of times as folks are thinking about announcements or sharing information, we're able to, or we think about kind of that front page story in the IBJ that I showed you, our local business journal, or we think about the social media post. That actually jumps to that last loop of general public. So we want you to think about talking to those that are closest to you first with any announcement, and then really making sure that those touch points are in the right sequence so there are no surprises and people feel really good, for instance, that if they see something about our firm on social media, that we took the time to talk to them first. So if you think about staff transitions or communicating about succession planning, those may be some of the things that you might use concentric circles on. If you're buying a company, if you're merging, any business news that you might want to share would benefit from looking at concentric circles. The next thing we think about is message structure. So again, this is a disciplined approach to creating and crafting messaging about any topic. So what we want you to do is start with an overarching key message, distill the information that you want to share into 3 key points, and then at only 3 supporting points per key point. This gives you the message structure that you need for any briefing or to share information with any one of your stakeholders. I'm going to share with you next our ESOP messaging that we use at the agency. So this, and I'll show you later, this actually hangs on a plaque in our lobby. So any new employees, anybody who's interviewing, our clients who come to our office for a visit or a meeting are really engaged and kind of first see this ESOP messaging right away. So again, start right out with 100% employee owned, a welcome, and then point out that this firm is not like others, that we're an ESOP and that we're employee owned. We always give a nod to our founder, right? It's part of our messaging structure, and that our stock is distributed to employees at no cost to them, and that the person you interact with today will likely be an owner. And then we try to frame that into what benefit that has for our visitor or the person that is that's waiting in our lobby, right? So you're talking to someone who can get things done. We care about your experience. And if you're here for a job, you're talking to someone who is looking for a fellow owner. So we've had really great experience with this messaging and great feedback as well. So your messaging is going to be different, but as you think about telling that ESOP story, we'll want to think about exactly how we position that and who that audience that we're communicating with may be. I'm going to follow our concentric circles model here. And so as we think about some of the first rings of stakeholder communication, we put our employee owners kind of first and foremost. So a number of years ago, we adopted what we call the balanced scorecard. So this is an academic model. You can Google it and learn all about it. That is used for strategic planning in an organization. So prior to adopting the balanced scorecard, we used the sort of write all the things down that need to be done to run an agency and use that as your strategic plan. And as we really took a hard look at our firm and our level of maturity, not only as a business, but also in the ESOP, it became really clear that we needed a better structure. This has worked incredibly well for us. So basically, the balanced scorecard has 4 key areas: learning and growth, customer, internal business process, and financial. As we adopted the strategic plan format of the balanced scorecard, we also committed to use that in all of our communication structures. So this is the structure of our team meetings. So whether it's the owners meeting that we have as our all staff meeting quarterly, or it's a department meeting or another internal work group, we use these 4 categories to create the agenda. They're the spine of the agenda. If someone doesn't know where to put the item, that means it probably shouldn't be on an agenda, right? So one of the evolutions that we adopted was this concept that diversity, equity, and inclusion wraps all the way around our strategic plan. So we debated adding it as a category. So we would then have 5 pieces of our balanced scorecard, but that didn't make a lot of sense to kind of put it on an island. So we now have diversity, equity, and inclusion report outs that happen every time we have any kind of in-house meeting with our team members. We're reporting on our 4 areas of the balanced scorecard and on our diversity, equity, and inclusion work as well. So as we think about employee engagement throughout the agency, so from our senior level leaders all the way through our entry level folks and our interns, we wanted to make sure that our employees could be engaged. So we built these affinity teams under our learning and growth financial work groups and our internal business processes work groups. But we also set out our diversity, equity, and inclusion council on its own. So it is a council, it is freestanding. And then we have employee work groups for each of the other 4 areas. So these are somewhat they're somewhat voluntold, I'll just say, to participate in these work groups. So we do not allow senior leaders in the agency to participate in the work groups. We really focus on mid-level and entry-level folks, and then we have someone from each department who leads the work group. So we want to make sure that we've got involvement and engagement, and that our strategic plan is kind of bubbling up from our team members. So I'm going to turn now to talk about our ESOP communications plan. This is overseen and really led by our financial work group members. So we are very fortunate to have a very enthusiastic advocate for our ESOP within our team, and she spearheads our financial work group. We have a process over the course of the year where we engage our employee ownerships in that ESOP messaging, and we have dedicated messaging strategies and tactics that are updated annually, where we are able to really tell this ESOP story. So as part of this, we certainly talk about the benefits of the ESOP, how it works, what it means to our employee owners. But what we're really doing is creating and sustaining a culture of ownership within the agency. So we know that that's really what makes a difference and can help folks break through. When we invite people into the agency, they are, as they're onboarded, we share a message from our founder, Tom Hirons, as part of that onboarding, and really try to kick off that experience that they're going to have with this message from Tom.
Welcome. We're glad you're here. Possibly it's your first day in a PR, advertising, digital firm. Maybe you're a seasoned professional bringing your skills to Hirons. Either way, you're in a very good place. You're about to be a part of a very high-performing team of communications professionals. I remember my first day at Hirons. It was the summer of 1978 in Bloomington, and I was right out of college. We've come a long way. If this is your first real advertising PR job out of college, I can relate. My advice, step up. Your real education is about to begin. Your career is about to take off. My expectation of you is the same expectation I had for myself. Do great work and have fun doing it. You have the advantage of years of success behind you. We've accomplished a lot. We've built one of the most highly respected advertising, public relations, and digital firms in Indiana. We serve leading local, regional, and national clients. Our vision statement is pretty simple. It's not grandiose. It's not a vision of size or power or awards. It's not a vision of something far off in the future, but a vision we strive to realize every day. Our vision is that every time we walk out of a room for a prospect to say, I want to work with them. And every time we leave a client meeting for a client to think, dang, I am glad they're on our team. Every time. That takes preparation, diligence, attentiveness, thoughtfulness, intellect. It's about asking the right questions. It's not about saying what you think, but what you know. You may have heard of our mantra, outthink, outwork, outperform. It's not about being smarter or better than our clients. It's not even about being smarter or better than other firms. Our competition is our own potential. How good are you? How close to perfection can you come? How well can you perform on a high-performing team? Outthinking speaks to our passion for research and strategic excellence. Outthinking means that we bring to the table a clear, concise, workable strategy grounded in research with metrics on the front end, which will allow us to measure our results. Outthinking means digging into that research, immersing yourself in the problem, understanding, then seeing and articulating a clear roadmap to results. Outworking means we'll do whatever it takes. Our first idea is rarely our best idea. Preparation matters. It may mean leaving for a meeting before the sun comes up or taking a red eye home. We do whatever it takes. We also believe in work-life balance. Many of us have kids, dogs, families. We all have lives outside of work. People who have been the most successful at Hirons bring a passion for what we do that doesn't make this feel like work at all. You're going to be working with a group of extraordinarily talented individuals. If you play tennis or any sport, you've already learned that you only get better by playing with people that are better than you. Playing well and at a professional level with others involves asking for critiques, watching and listening to the high performers around you and responding to feedback that will accelerate your own professional development and growth. Outperforming is all about the client's success. Only because we outthink and outwork can we outperform. The first two set up the third. Clear metrics, solid research, and strategy become the measures of performance our clients hire us to deliver. You'll often hear us say, Hirons is research-driven and results-oriented. Clients don't hire us to design brochures, make TV spots, or write news releases. They hire us for results. It may be increased awareness, leads, sales, or a change in attitudes and behaviors. Deliver measurable results. Good consultants earn the respect of great clients with their service as well as their insights, and mostly with the quality of the penetrating questions they ask. Being a consultant doesn't mean you're a know-it-all or can be arrogant or self-serving. We strive for excellence in customer service. Our culture is that every call is returned the same day, budgets and deadlines are met, and everyone is treated with respect. Good consultants prepare for meetings. They write lists of smart questions in advance, they listen, they take notes, they often confer with their peers at Hirons before making recommendations, and when it's time, they speak with confidence and authority, and they have fun doing it. My first day of work, I started as the owner. Now we're an ESOP, 100% employee owned. We urge you to become knowledgeable about your company and what that means to be an employee owner, and what it means not just to you, but to your co-owners. We expect you to think and act like an owner in everything you do. You may have heard our motto. You may even already have a t-shirt with it imprinted on the front. Be bold. It's not an empty catchphrase. It's a call to action. It's a way of thinking. Your success here is as much your responsibility as the responsibility of those who have selected you for this position and who will work with you, push you, succeed with you. It's a pleasure to welcome you to Hirons, and I wish you every success. Be bold.
So speaking of onboarding, we have some onboarding resources to share with you. We do have a kind of a mini toolkit of resources for new ESOPs. So this will include just kind of basics at a couple of different levels for HR folks, owners, for decision makers, and also for participants. So these are things within the toolkit that can be shared within the company just to provide a greater understanding. So you can scan the little QR code, and both the mini toolkit and this upcoming recruitment and retention toolkit should pop up. Also, at the end of the presentation, there is another QR code that will have all of the links in there. So if you would like to scan that one, you are welcome to as well. Now, the recruitment and retention toolkit, that is one of our newer toolkits as well. That one is kind of focused on helping to communicate the value of employee ownership to potential candidates that you might be kind of looking at for filling a position. Also, how to find those employees. And then once they are, once you get the yes, help to onboard them, get the ESOP kind of in with the onboarding as Tom was speaking of in the video, and then how to retain those folks after the first year.
So one of the best ways that we find to think about employee communication regarding the ESOP is to think about it in a calendar format. So what we do is celebrate and really focus on our ESOP 4 times over the course of a calendar year. So in our January owners meeting, which I'll talk about a little bit more here in a minute, we present our new ESOP members, so those that are in their first year of the ESOP, with a money tree with a little bit of branding, but we celebrate them entering into the ESOP. In March, we do an ESOP brunch with the board. And as you can imagine, we serve eggs, sausage, orange juice, and pancakes. Get it? It spells ESOP. In June, as I talked about, we have our annual Founders Day celebration. And then in October, we celebrate our ownership month recognition. So we do a special program all around the ESOP. And then at our October employee owners meeting, which is our all staff meeting, we give vests to those that are 100% vested. Isn't that clever? So, and then we have our trustee host a dedicated training about the ESOP that is really an open kind of Q&A format after a briefing session where our employee owners can ask the key questions that they have about the ESOP. We find that these are very kind of personal questions that they want to think about, and that had a lot of great interaction for us as well. One of the things as you're considering what the calendar might look for with you is if you are in a different kind of business environment. So if you're in manufacturing and production or engineering, you have a lot of people that are working off site all the time. Or if you have a lot of employee owners who work virtually, you may need to rethink and kind of customize a calendar to what works best for you. So, there may be a competition that you can do virtually, or a gathering of employees that could think about participating in a universal like half day or something like that we do for our employee owners too.
Perfect. I'm just going to kind of pick up right there too. One thing I really like is the 100% vested vests. I love that idea so much. And then it just kind of ticked my brain about just kind of having company merchandise as prizes, or anything allotted for company pride, bringing together different departments or groups or teams. And then one thing that we do here at the NCEO, while we're not employee owned ourselves, is we are all virtual. And when we are not in the same room, we use things like games when if we're doing kind of a bonding activity. We'll do like Family Feud on a group meeting, or sometimes if we do have longer meetings, we'll send out gift cards to get lunch so we can all kind of eat together. One thing we tried recently as well was having all having the same background of the same meeting room, so it would feel a little bit more like we were all in one space just for a little bit, so that we could feel a little bit more together.
Yeah, I think COVID pushed many of us to figure out how to do things a lot more flexibly in a hybrid environment or fully virtual. One of the things that I'm really proud of that we do at Hirons is all come together for a quarterly owners meeting. So this is traditionally what you would think of as an all staff meeting. We try to do it in person, but do offer a virtual component as well. And have a very good kind of storyline during the 90-minute meeting. So we have all of our management team members participate in the owners meeting, and one is assigned to lead it each month. And so we are able to really engage folks along the way. We also have a monthly newsletter. So part of kind of sharing information and building this employee culture is to have some shared information that we collaborate on each month. So the newsletter, of course, follows our balanced scorecard categories. and also includes client feedback. So our primary product is our service and consulting to our clients. So we want to make sure that we are celebrating collectively that client feedback and sharing that, and just at the end of each month taking time to look back at what we were able to accomplish then. Next, you'll see that we have our money tree there on the left. So that's what's presented as employees enter the ESOP. In the middle, you'll see our newly vested employees sporting their vests out in front of our offices. And then on the right is Emily Hayden in the purple top, who is our chief advocate for the ESOP and leads our financial work group. And then Kim Short, who is our controller and also serves as the trustee for our ESOP. So they gave a presentation in October about the ESOP. Next, you will see our brunch. So this was, again, the brunch activity where our board, who you see here, came in and served our employee owners and had a great time. Some remarks from Tom Hirons, our founder, that you see there in the blue shirt. To build on our kind of employee ownership culture, we have a lot of things. I'm going to talk about these just very briefly, but as Grace mentioned, our merchandiser swag program is important to us. So you see a lot of Hirons branded wardrobe. We have like Yetis and backpacks and Padfolios and coffee mugs and all the things you can think of that are available. We give our employee owners an allowance each year to use it as they prefer for their merch. So we're no longer kind of giving everybody the same t-shirt or anything like that. We are, as I mentioned, dog friendly, which gets a lot of great feedback, not only from our employee owners, but also from our clients who visit and are somewhat jealous about our program. We do a lot of themed events and holiday celebrations. Again, we're all about the competitions, like it sounds like you are at NCEO as well. We do donation drives. So over the holidays, we may collect donations of gifts or cash for foster families or other nonprofits who need support. As you saw earlier, we do block cleanups. We also do Friday breakfast every week. So again, as we have been pushing to get more of our employee owners back into the office routinely, feeding them has been an important way of doing that. And then every Friday, we celebrate Friday Fun, where we all get together at 4:00 and have beverages and snacks and just kind of like hang out after the end of a hard week. I've got some more photos here that you'll see. So on the left, those are the winners of our chili cook-off. They had spoons as their trophies. You see some of our swag here, and then here is Kurt with one of our dog friends who is routinely at the office. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about here is just kind of crowdsourcing on what you all do to engage employees. So Grace, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure thing. So since we've shared a couple of things, you are welcome to put in the chat some ideas that you have that you've already implemented, maybe questions about ideas that we have shared. So yeah, as you can see, you can plop that in the chat and we will answer that for you. We'll take a couple minutes there to answer those questions. But while they do that, Deanna, do you want to talk about how any of the programs work? I know you spoke a little bit about the allowance that they get for the swag. And then I'm very curious, how does the dog program work?
Yeah, so we identify a budget each year as we put together our agency budget and determine how much our employee owners get for their swag. So it's sometimes $50 or $75. We also give new employees an allowance as well. So as they are coming on board, they can kind of stock up on some of their swag too. Our Bring Your Dog to Work program is wildly popular. They have to be old enough to have had all of their shots. There's a kind of a behavior policy that we've engaged in. And then, and so if there are any bad dogs, we have a process to deal with that too. So if any of you have any questions, we've been doing this for a lot of years, and I'd be happy to chat about that offline.
Perfect. Thank you for explaining those. I'll just share a tiny bit more about what we do here at the NCEO with a couple more minutes that we have. We, other than like the Family Feud, we will, I believe one time we tried trivia, which was very fun. We got to know a little bit more about each other, which could also work with either virtual or kind of more spread out. I know manufacturing tends to have this, and construction especially, which was one of the questions that we got, I think the first time I presented, was how do you translate that to a more, I guess, spread out group of employees? So that could be a good way to have folks engage. All right. And from there, I'm just going to jump into the a little bit more of the culture just to add on here. Like we spoke about earlier, we do have the culture survey and the networking program. If you are kind of exploring that page, you'll see a little bit about the program there. But if you do have any questions, again, please feel free to reach out. I know we just finished up a round of our communications committee crash course. And our director of education, her name is Lindsay. She's amazing. She is going to be taking that over from Dallin. So you can see a little bit more about these resources here about ownership culture when you scan the QR code.
So one of the things that we do is also acknowledge our employees' performance. So we have a recognition plan at our quarterly owners meeting. Our management team identifies those employee owners who can be presented with a bat for hitting it out of the park. It is actually engraved with their name. So you see a couple of our recent bat awardees here. We also share kudos in our monthly newsletter. So this is just a employee's opportunity to give kudos to one of their colleagues. We put them in video now in our employee owners quarterly meetings too. And then we have a weekly high five e-newsletter, which is just very simple. At the end of the day on Friday, we send out high fives that we've collected. So thanking someone for doing a great job on a presentation, or getting them out of a pinch on a project or something along those lines. So a variety of ways that we recognize employees, both kind of long-term and short-term. Next year, you'll see some of our kudos. So again, we have a nominator like Andrea, who does a video that we show at our owners meeting. And then we also include them in a written format in our newsletters as well. We have testimonials that we also share. So we ask our employee owners to talk a little bit about what this means to them. We also are committed to telling this story outside of our walls, so to our clients and our vendors and others. So again, we've got kind of a yard sign at the office, the plaque here in our lobby that I've talked a little bit about as well. As part of Tom's retirement, we also dedicated a conference room to him. So it does a great job of kind of keeping his name and his story on the top of all of our minds as we're scheduling meetings and so forth. We also tell the story on our website. We find that a lot more people are visiting our website these days that are often coming to our office. So it's important for us also to communicate there as well. We've recently introduced an Off the Clock blog series, which helps our employee owners talk about the things that they do to give back to the community and what they might find in their time away from Hirons as well. We use social media to celebrate our employee owners, whether it's academic acknowledgement or maybe something for Women's History Month. And then obviously during October and other times, we're telling our ESOP story as well. We also do a Founders Day newsletter and social media push each year. So this tells our story of the ESOP more broadly and in an expanded way. Our collateral materials also include this employee-owned company tag that you can see on the top of my business card there, and in the other ways that we're telling our story. We do include it in business proposals as well. So as we're trying to identify new folks. Our internship program is really important to us, and we want to make sure that our interns understand the importance of the ESOP. So that's what we hope they take away. They also get to do a lot of fun things, as you can see here. Internship program is really important to our agency. I was fortunate to participate in a great internship program when I was in college, and so tried to carry that forward. We want to make sure that our interns have a great experience, but also meet members of the community. The folks that you're seeing here are our Tom Hirons intern and also our Amos Brown intern. So the Amos Brown internship program was created in honor of a local talk show host and community leader who died unexpectedly and was always an advocate for the voices and communities of color. So our agency worked with the media outlets that he collaborated with, as well as his family, to establish the Amos Brown internship program that is for a student of color who is interested in any aspect of our business. So again, we're trying to engage even our interns in some of the understanding and knowledge about what an ESOP is. So as they're searching for their later employees, this is one of the things that we ask about. We have a lot of engagement with our local colleges and universities as well. So we do a lot of tours and visits with folks from the universities that we've really worked to create these relationships with. So you see some of their smiling faces here. We also engage with our local high schools. So this is something that I didn't necessarily think we would be doing, but as workforce challenges have hit all of us, it's become really clear that we need to start to talk to these students even when they're in high school and they are deciding their career path. So we speak at Ball State University for their Journalism Day, where they have folks who are interested in journalism who are high school students participating in student-run media. So that's a high school yearbook or newspaper or television station or podcast, whatever media a high school may have. And so we participate as a guest speaker in a lot of high school environments too. As far as community engagement goes, we are very involved with our chambers of commerce and local business advocacy groups. And as we engage with those different stakeholders, we really try to tell our ESOP story there as well. So this is an example of a committee that I serve on that did a profile of Hirons, and we focused all of our efforts on kind of talking about the ESOP and our employee culture and what that means. So looking for ways to tell your story and using opportunities like this to talk about the ESOP can also be really beneficial.
Okay, so we are pretty close to the end here. Key takeaways here, we're just reviewing the goals for this presentation. And if you do have questions on the topics, the resources, it is the perfect place to put them right here in the chat. We'll take one kind of final look at those questions. And if you do have a question that is a little longer or anything like that, please feel free to email membership@nceo.org. And whether that's for myself, for the NCEO, or for both of us, or just for Dina, I will go ahead and forward as necessary. And that is our presentation. Again, my name is Grace. I'm the membership associate here. And Dina, why don't you go ahead and say some goodbyes?
Yeah, well, thanks for your time. We are super passionate about the ESOP at Hirons and would be happy to connect with any of you offline to talk more.
Thanks, everybody.